Good evening, everybody. Happy 4th of July to the Americanos out there, and happy belated Canada Day to anyone who has yet to listen to that episode. It is Sunday evening, a little earlier than normal because we figured you'd want to go out and enjoy the fireworks. Or if you're in Canada, you don't have fireworks, but your neighbors might, and they'll put them off on July 2nd like mine did for some reason. Anyway, Sunday night, dingers, fab, but tonight we're also going to be talking about Dynasty values, fun things with special guest Roto Ronnie. No theme, no intro. This is it. Ronnie, good evening.
After that, I got my cool hat, my cool glasses, Macho Man, Basil Hayden. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Roto Ronnie / Tourney Boss Ty is ready to drink. So we don't have the it's time to have a drink now, but we do have this. And that is a sound that can't be beat. So Ronnie, I'm assuming from that Macho Man intro that you are drinking Basil Hayden tonight.
Oh man, I had to honor Ty this time, get the Basil Hayden.
Oh man. Are you going to do the gruff voice all night? Because that would be great.
I might just do it.
Okay, well, let's see how it goes. So if anyone is watching the live stream, it says I'm Ty Childs. I'm not. I'm the other screen. I'm where Roto Ronnie is. He's got me, Robbie Rose, at Robbie Baseball 1. Find the podcast at Dingers Pod. Find Ty, who is coming home tonight, but we wanted to record a little early to catch anybody who needed some fab help, some dynasty help. Trade deadlines are approaching. You can find Ronnie at Roto Ronnie. And also rotoronnie.com. So has that been updated since we last discussed it?
I haven't got around to it just yet.
Oh, that's great. Please continue. So Roto Ronnie's website is a couple of things, which we didn't talk about the last time. The one thing that a lot of people that know of Roto Ronnie as a league mate find is that he's very vocal in the group chats, and spelling errors are common for him, which is nice to not see on the website, grammatical errors especially. But the idea behind your site, Ronnie, was twofold. One was that you wanted to have an ADP of sorts, and the second one, which I'd like you to describe afterwards, and the second one, which was the one that I was really interested in, was you just kind of discussing what was going on in some of your leagues as an avid fantasy player, not someone who wants the limelight, such as myself, that just desperately needs attention and has a podcast. So what is the first part of your podcast?
My podcast.
Sorry, your website. What is the first part of the website to do the ADP for you?
The first part was really I wanted to make my own. I always do this for all my leagues. I make my own aggregates or averages, I guess, across the industry for single season like rankings for that year, general dynasty rankings, MLB players mixed in with prospects, and then a straight up prospects one. So what I do is I look across 10 or 12 like industry public sites that are out there.
Yep. All free information that's out there in the ether, right? Yep.
Yeah. And I just consolidate it to one spreadsheet using a nice VLOOKUP function and cross.
I don't know what that VLOOKUP thing is. You've tried to help me out with it before when I've been manually
entering. Honestly, it would make
things.
Your life so much easier. Instead of writing 100 players and writing Trade Turner 25, Josh Donaldson 72. It just takes a list and it matches it with another list and it pulls the column so it corresponds the rankings. And then you just repeat that from every site, whether it's ESPN, Fantrax, Pitcher List, Razzball, whatever it is.
Right. Whoever's kind of as you would see as a place that a fantasy player could go.
There's some formatting you got to do to make sure your columns align the right way. But at the end of the day, it basically allows me to average out all 10 rows into the right-hand column, which I call the Roto Ronnie rankings. Okay. And then that is the column that is sorted and posted as a list. So it's averaging out those 10 or 12 different sites.
Gotcha.
To give me industry perspective on that player. And then I do it for prospects or MLB single season or fantasy.
So that is a little similar then to, because we talked about this before, to what I've got going on at RobbieBaseball.com, where I created the first year player draft average draft position, because I was finding it really frustrating taking all of the I don't want to call them like my cohorts in this, but people with a much larger platform than myself, who are writers, podcasters, big, like, would you call people Twitter influencers? I think so. I think when they're talking fantasy baseball and they've got, several thousands of followers, and they continuously get the same questions over and over again, that they can influence people. So I tried to make a list that included all of those people's lists. So the public ones, as you mentioned before, the sites that have writers who did public lists, as well as some paywall or like lists that are behind paywall. And I'd asked those people, because I paid for the list, I asked them if I could use them, and I wouldn't list them publicly, so you wouldn't know that in this league, like Chris Welsh, he's got a list. If you're in the Patreon, you can use his prospect list. So I used his list, but I didn't make any of it public. I just put it into that.
Sure, spit out the average.
just so that I could get the ADP. So I did that, but then what I also did as the offseason went on, all of my dynasty leagues that I played in, as well as a lot of the listeners, gave me their top 50 or their top 100 picks from their own dynasty draft. So then we could actually put in a player list, like from fantasy baseball players, and the industry list, and we could have one composite and then two separates, which I think really was interesting to see, because a lot of the industry guys, especially when you got past the top 30, a lot of the J2 guys started to cloud the visions, right? Like Cespedes was getting put up really high. Pedro Leon was another one of those guys, very boomer bust for people, but there was no tape on him. So I was really hesitant to go in on him. Well, now he's at AA, not doing too well. Odds aren't really good that we're going to see him with Houston. Looks like he's going to need, a full 500 minor league at bats maybe to adjust himself. But there are guys who are ranking him really high. So depending on where they all fell, I now, just like you, get to save this information. We put it in the vault for 3 or 4 years. And just like I did with Reese White in the episode earlier this week, we'll go back and look at this draft in 3 years and say, hey, here's where industry people were right and wrong, and here's where industry players were right and wrong. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes, as well as myself. I've got my own list publicly available. I've also got the Dingers list that Ty and I do as a composite list together. So we can always agree and disagree on how good or bad players are, but it's important. And another important thing in the transition to tonight's topic is dynasty players. We are going to look at some of the least sexiest names, as well as some of the most interesting ones, former top prospects, and discuss their fantasy value. Some of them have decent ownership in Yahoo, which we both consider redraft formats. And we know that if we went to Fantrax, the ownerships would all probably be north of 80%. But just in case, we wanted to have the conversation for anybody who's out there looking for pickups in your 10 and 12 team leagues. Maybe there's somebody of use here. So the first guy for us tonight, Ronnie, is Omar Narvaez, catcher with Milwaukee, 50% owned in 195 at bats this year, a 303 average, 31 runs, 25 RBIs, no stolen bases, which if you've ever looked at Omar Narvaez, you know why, and 7 dingers, which is decent for him. And the strikeout to walk ratio is fun. I believe I have this right, that he's got more walks than Ks, 26 walks to 39 Ks. There we go. I said it wrong, but Narvaez had a really interesting 19, kind of a breakoutish 19 with Seattle. He was traded in the offseason to Milwaukee. It was going to be Tom Murphy earning the job last year, and then Tom Murphy got hurt and Austin Nola came in, and Austin Nola was great. And then Seattle said, okay, well, we'll trade you now, Austin Nola, because you're good. And it's going to be Tom Murphy's job again this year. Well, now it's really not working out for Tom Murphy, but for Omar Narvaez, only 50% owned in Yahoo. So out there in your redraft leagues, he could be on the cusp. What are your thoughts on a guy like him in Dynasty?
In Dynasty, I'm like you guys. I'm not a big catcher guy. I think they're interchangeable, honestly, unless you have like the cream of the crop, or even if you have like a Joey Bart, I wouldn't keep him. I'd trade him long before he becomes up. But I don't want to say is the right word, but I ride the hot hand season by season or halfway through the season. So Omar Narvaez would definitely be a guy right now that I would look if I don't have, like if I have a guy worse than him right now, to swap him out, because at the catcher position, I really don't care about the name. So
right,
looking at what he's been doing lately and what he's been doing for the year, he's not going to hurt me. And that's sort of my goal for catchers. Just get a guy that doesn't hurt me.
And that's a really common thing. Like I went out of my way in 2019 to punt catchers with the sole goal of finding guys who nobody cared about. And that's when I came across James McCann and came across Austin Nola. And I was like, here's something, right? Like I bottled two and I was able to carry them both through 2020 with greater success than the 19, peripherals that I had seen as the year went on. And they both kind of established themselves. Now, McCann went off and got himself a 4-year deal. Nola went and got himself traded to San Diego, but now he's having injury concerns. I was trying to look up Omar's age. Do you happen to have it in front of you?
It's 29. I don't know
29.
what his birthday is, but he's 29.
Okay, so this is probably his just straight up age 29 season.
He's February 10th, so he's 29 all year.
Okay, perfect. So for Narvaez, you could pretty well say you should be able to get at least 3-4 more years out of him. If you are interested in Dynasty, I agree with your take there, Ronnie. I would look for him for rest of season.
Yeah, maybe you carry him over to start next year and see how it goes.
Yeah, if it's a keep forever Dynasty, it's okay to take him, but it will now cost you more. And the typical response in Dynasty is, I'm trading an MLB player. You owe me a prospect or a draft pick. And if you're curious how it works out with taking draft picks, go back to the previous episode that I did with Reese White and talk about the 2018 draft and how that class has really been very vastly different in dynasty value. So next guy up here is Carson Kelly with Arizona. The crummy part of this, as I will say with Kelly, is that the counting stats are going to be even harder for him to come by because of how bad Arizona is and how much worse it's expected they're going to get. He's only 29% owned in Yahoo. 260 average and 150 at bats hurt right now. 22 runs, 26 RBIs, 8 dingers. Pretty good for strikeout to walk. He's got 38 Ks and 28 walks, which I like. And the OPS is 845. So if you're in an OPS league or OBP league, you're getting a little bit of a bump in catcher for him. I like Kelly. I can't remember if he's 28 right now. I don't know if you have it in front of you there, Ronnie, but
he's 26.
26. Okay, so even
next
younger.
Week, though. He's about to be 27.
There we go. Okay, so I was double wrong. He's not 28, and he's not going to turn 28. So good for me, over 2. But for Kelly, he's somebody that I liked a little bit more in the offseason. I was not able to acquire him at a lesser rate this offseason. I feel like in season now, it's not going to be any better. But I would knock on the owner's doors, and knowing now that he's 26, not 28, I'm a little bit more intrigued that his floor is going to be more of what he is now. Like, I think this is somebody who could certainly improve. And if Arizona is going to do the flat out tank, it's not going to help with his counting stats, but that's where it's nice to have the OPS and the average that can help you out. And again, if he's going to get 15 home runs for you in the year, that's not going to crush you. If you're doing the catcher punt strategy, Kelly's not going to be your guy because he's got value. But how do you feel about him, Ronnie?
I drafted him in a best ball at the beginning of the year. So I liked him somewhat. It's just a catcher for me. I have a hard time really getting too excited about any of the catchers. If it don't hurt me, I like them. And right now, I think you could do a lot worse than Carson Kelly. Obviously, he's out when he returns. So in a dynasty, I like this play a little bit more, almost like a lottery ticket. See how it goes, because I'm generally punting catcher or not paying for catcher. So if I can get him at something really cheap, league minimum, so it's not going to cost me a lot, I'd take a gamble on.
All right, fair enough. Now here are 2 interesting ones. I'll do them both so we can kind of go back and forth with them. Josh Bell. Remember when Josh Bell was going to light the world on fire? What was that, 2018? Well, he's with Washington now, 52% owned in Yahoo, 237 average in 215 at-bats. I'll continue on him in a moment. Andrew Vaughn. Remember how Andrew Vaughn is going to set the world on fire? Well, that's actually next year, just so everyone's aware. It's not this year. But he's first base outfield eligible, 23% owned in Yahoo, at 247 average in 215 at bats, which is why I'm going to continue this. So this is basically a Vaughn versus Bell. Excuse me. 36 runs, 15 RBIs for Bell, 34 runs, 22 RBIs for Vaughn, 1 stolen base for Vaughn, 11 dingers for Bell, 8 for Vaughn. Strikeout to walk is almost identical as well. It's just about 3-1 for both of them. 56 Ks to 20 walks for Bell, 62 Ks to 20 walks for Vaughn. And OPS within 2 points. It's crazy. But over the last 30 days, Bell has had a 924 OPS and Vaughn has had an 814. Both have improved, one much more than the other, another 110 points higher. So in Dynasty, you know what the cost of Andrew Vaughn is. You own him in a league, so you've probably heard offers on him. You also may just be looking to acquire him, but Josh Bell as well. What do you think?
I traded for him at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so perfect guy to ask then. Of the two, who do you want moving forward, taking any type of a salary league out of play?
Andrew Vaughn, hands down.
Hands down, not even close for you? Yeah.
No, if this year, single season, I guess Bell, maybe. Larissa kind of dicks around Vaughn a little bit.
But by this point in the year, they both have the same number of at-bats.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Well, Bell's been hurt for most of it.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Long term, if I'm holding for even next year, Dynasty, 100% Vaughn. If I'm just looking for this year, single season, no repercussions for next year, you can talk me into Bell.
Okay.
I don't mind Bell.
Well, I'm a little concerned that Washington isn't as good as I thought they would be, but this is the same thing that happened last year. I had really high hopes for Washington, not necessarily to repeat, but for the NL East to be really competitive, but for the weaker teams outside, like the central teams, to just get pounded by them. But then it became in 2020, it was the ALs played the ALs, like, not, whatever interdivision was happening all the time, and Washington just didn't fare as well. I also thought Philly was going to be really strong last year, so I kind of carried both of those feelings over to this year, thinking Miami was also better, which we did talk about a week ago. And I kind of thought, well, maybe Bell's going to be sneaky good here, but I feel like everyone thought Bell was going to be sneaky good.
Traded for Bell, and I was like,
so now it's that disappointment factor that comes in, because in 17, I think it was, I was pretty excited about Bell in a lot of different places and had him in dynasties. And I think it was 18 that he did have his big year. And then headed into 19, I got some good offers on him. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sell him. This is one of the first times I'm going to sell somebody that I might regret, but I've got an eye on, these other first basemen, whoever they were. I know in one league I ended up with Rizzo and Bellinger and I had Bell. So I'm like, well, I can definitely deal Bell, so I'll deal Bell. And I hadn't felt the sting of it, but when I think about it now, and I'm like, well, would I rather have Bell for the next 3 or 4 years, or would I want to take a chance on a prospect like Vaughn, who seems to be, as you alluded to, in a crummy situation with the White Sox? And the situation is that he's not their first baseman, that's Abreu. He's not locked into outfield because they've got injured outfielders who have those jobs. So where does he go long term? Well, next year we could say, yes, he's going to be first base. Totally possible. But in Dynasty, I think players are more valuable when they have an assurance of playing time, like a McCain with a 4-year contract versus, a guy with a 1 year. You can believe they're going to get a deal, but that's the difference between having a 1-year contract on Kevin Pillar and he goes to San Francisco, and a 1-year deal and he goes to Boston. You're like, oh crap, I really don't like that Boston, or sorry, to the Mets. I really don't like that Mets deal because he's going to be on the bench. Whereas when he was going a year ago, you're like, that's a starter in San Francisco. Yeah. So for me, I would almost say Bell, but it's not that I think Vaughn over the course of Vaughn's career isn't going to produce more than Bell will over that same period of time. It's that the arc for Vaughn might start so much lower before it starts to go up. And to me, it might just be waiting out La Russa, which sucks to say. I hate the idea of not liking a manager, and you think to yourself, well, if we can get rid of the manager,
well, I think he's got at least next. They're not going to fire him this quick unless he really.
No, I don't. But the team's also winning, right? That's the other thing too. And sad news as well for all the Yerman Mercedes owners. He did get sent down. I feel a little bad, Ronnie, in our to be named later 30-team points league. I made a trade. It was him and DJ LeMahieu, and I got Tristan McKenzie. So I've got 5 years of McKenzie, and I traded away what will be 5 years of Mercedes, but who knows what that could be now.
You couldn't get more for not too low.
For LeMahieu?
Yeah, he's been turning it on lately too.
He's been turning it on. I also believed that Keston Hiura was ready, and I felt like if my season's going to go the way it needs to go for me, and it's a salary league, so it's an expiring contract for LeMahieu. I thought if I can get McKenzie, and I can get back LeMahieu if I feel that's the right move, because he'll have still 6 years left on his MLB deal next year. I can go nuts in that league and try to get him if I really need him. But anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting and sad that Mercedes has sunk this to this point, but hopefully he can go back to AAA and maybe have 100 at bats there and come back up at some point in August and just roll with the team as they're getting healthy for the playoff stretch. All right. We've got 2 middle infield. Let's do 3 middle infielders. We've got Luis Ariz with Minnesota, Gavin Lux, and Alberto Mondesi. Mondesi, yes, he's owned. Of course he's owned, but he only has 36 at bats this year. He's hurt, and then he gets hurt again. 361 average is drool worthy. His September last year was drool worthy, top fantasy player, but constant injury issues. What are we going to get from Mondesi? So if you're choosing between Mondesi, Lux, and Ariz, who do you think can do the best for you rest of year and then just in dynasty thinking long-term? Now, the news on Lux, we know, former top prospect, right? This guy was going to light the world on fire. Well, judging by a 51% ownership in Yahoo, that hasn't happened. Looking at the stat line, 241 at-bats. That is regular everyday playing time. 228 average. The counting stats aren't brutal. 35 runs, 33 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 6 dingers. Not good, though. And a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. But this is where it shows you're hurt or he's hurting. Bad OBP and a 666 OPS. Now, Ariz, who spent some time on the injured list, is second, third base, and outfield eligible. In 196 at-bats, he's got a 276 average, and this is supposed to be a 300 average type hitter. That's the whole point. So you're down 20-plus points on him right now, but 29 runs, 21 RBIs, only 1 dinger because he doesn't have power, but he's been able to have a 709 OPS. So who do you prefer in this? Now, Lux has second and shortstop eligibility. Yeah. Mondesi is only shortstop. So we got a 3-position guy, a 2-position guy, and a 1-position guy. Who do you like rest of year and dynasty?
Rest of year, Roto. You got to give me Mondesi for those steals and runs.
So regardless of the injury concerns, you think he's back? He's running.
These 3 guys, if I'm rotoing,
yep, that's your guy.
Mondesi.
Okay.
If we're just in a categories league dynasty now, Mondesi's probably obviously owned. I think Gavin Lux has the most asset value still of these 3.
Of the 3? Okay. That's
it's
interesting.
Close to Mondesi, I think. I think it's close. But I think you could still squeeze something good for trading Gavin Lux. You might want to do it soon.
Yeah.
And then Luis Ariz is more of a thing. It doesn't get me excited long term.
Right. Yeah. I can tell from your voice that you're not happy to be talking about him, but
he's got the best 30 days in season of the 3 of these guys. So he's
okay.
On paper up to this point, probably the one that I prefer. If you hit all the names and just show me the stats, this would be the one I'd pick.
Right.
But yeah, Mondesi definitely if we were in a Roto league. And it's a tough call for categories otherwise. I think rest of season Gavin Lux should be really good. It should be better. Yep. It can't possibly be worse.
Well, the problem even when you look at Lux is that he hasn't had that incremental improvement. It's been a series of similarities for him. He's good. I shouldn't say good. He's better one week than the next. The average is 250. Then the next week it's 150. And you're just thinking get it together, man, hit that hot streak. And I don't know if that's what he needs, but to me in LA, as the season starts to condense and games become more important, we might start to see either less of him or he's just going to be cemented in the 8-hole. And that's where the issue could lie.
He could be traded eventually with Bush coming up and some of the other things they have. It's probably a little ways away, but
I don't think that you're far off.
What's his name? Taylor could play second for the rest of the year. I'm not sure what their Bauer situation is going to be, if they're going to need a starter.
I didn't even want to put that up as something to discuss tonight because that whole thing, none of it to me, we've seen it here. We're in Canada, obviously, with the flag. That'll give you one thing. And if you look at Ronnie's Blue Jay stuff behind, we had Roberto Osuna have an incident without the whatever evidence it is that's come forward with the Bauer thing. But Osuna was just off the team, like separated, and then he was suspended and nothing came of it, but he still missed 80 games. And if we're talking about it, so we're talking about the Bauer thing now, Ronnie. It's a real concern that this happened, but there's also that other element that people have in Dynasty, like what happened with your Jersey Reyes behind you, what happened with Chapman and other things where like domestic violence and other issues occur, and some fantasy players just say, well, I'm done with the guy. And that's fine if you decide you don't want to have anyone that's morally irreprehensible, that's done something publicly. But we have all sinned in our lives in different ways, shapes, and forms. And some people talk a lot about forgiveness and other things. And with the Bauer thing, I mean, let's just see what happens. But if I have him anywhere, sadly, I acquired him like 2 weeks ago in a league because somebody was concerned about his sticky stuff, and in our home league, and I said, well, like I'm okay with it. Like I think he'll probably have a little dip for maybe a month or something. But anyway, I'm just going to see what happens. And, if it comes out that he truly is like a disgusting person and that's been made factual and he's not going to have a contract and all those things, well, then like, let's deal with that. Right. Ozuna is another case with Atlanta that it's just like, oh my goodness, like what's happening. Right. But we've seen athletes and other people that we know in our lives that have done, despicable things. So from that time for that thing for me, I don't know. I don't know how you could say to anybody, get rid of this player unless you are just saying, I personally do not want anyone on who could have possibly have done the things that he's being accused of.
I'm just looking at it from a domino effect. Like if he is just perpetually 7-day administrative leave, if the Dodgers go about acquiring another starter, and would they maybe trade like a Lux or someone like that? Yeah.
And I think that what you are saying could do one of two things. Josiah Gray could be that next like fresh arm. If not Josiah Gray, acquisitions. And if San Diego is potentially looking to get Danny Duffy, which I don't know what that's going to do for you in the NL West, but whatever, if San Diego can get it done, sure. That just limits the player pool from which LA has to draw from, which means the offers need to go up. So I don't know what a Lux would get. I feel like he would be insanely valuable to a team that has that, maybe not even an expire, maybe like one and change left,
what
right?
About
like an extra year.
Berea?
For who?
Berea, is that his name?
Yeah, Barrios. Yeah, Jose Barrios.
Berea.
Well, he's the hot hand right now that everyone's discussing. So, but anyway, so maybe if Lux is a target for me, I really like Ariz simply because of what you said. He just doesn't look good. So he's one of those plug and play second basemen when we have low expectations. But Lux has been a real big disappointment to me. I wasn't high on him heading into the year. I traded him for Madrigal and a couple other peripheral pieces this offseason, including Sandoval in that deal. Thank you very much. So I'm a happy trader of Lux. And then for Mondesi, I've been really confused by him. In my home league, I traded, this is the trade, Strasburg, Judge, Vlad, and Mondesi, because you could only keep 6 MLBers. I traded those 4 for Soto. I was totally fine with it because there was no way I was going to be able to keep 3 of those 4. So I would have kept Vlad. So I was like, well, let's see if I can turn Vlad into Soto. Because to me, I have Acuna in that league. I'd like to have the ultimate outfield. So I was like, Soto, Vlad, and no one's going to do it. But I'm going to see if I can draft Austin Riley. I'm going to see if I can.
Did this other guy literally have no players to keep?
It was Smitty. He had a very bad team. And that's why I was able to do it. But with Mondesi being hurt, yeah, no, he's not. We'll see if I win tonight. I think I'll be in third if I win tonight because I'm playing the team that is in third. And I was 10-5 before the night game. So, but anyway, Mondesi was one of the guys I was willing to trade because I was like, there's no way what I saw in September is Mondesi at all. Like, I don't even know if that's realistically 60% of what I could expect in a full 162. And now we're not getting to see it, which means we have to wait until 2022. And Mondesi is just getting older as this is happening, and Casey's cycling that roster. So
this is like a better Billy Hamilton version. It's a Roto player. Yeah. And if you're not in Roto, do better.
Yeah, if you can crush them in weekly, like head-to-head weekly, you just have to be. It has to be daily. Sorry, is what I meant to say. Daily head-to-head, because you need to be able to get him out of your lineup without him hurting you if he's cold. Now, next guy up here has been a real surprise this season. Joey Wendell with Tampa Bay. He was Rookie of the Year, runner-up, I think it was in 19. Injuries hit him hard in 20. Came back this year really nice. Only 66% owned in Yahoo, but for Dynasty, the guy was like almost an albatross in salary leagues. 275 average this year and 240 at bats, 40 runs, 33 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 7 home runs. So from a counting stat standpoint, if you take runs, RBIs, stolen bases, and home runs, he's got more than everybody we've mentioned to this point. And he's 57 strikeouts to 17 walks, not a deal. And the OPS is dipped now. It's 777. But Joey Wendell is just like an everyday dude with 3 position eligibility. And for me, I am looking for the Joey Wendells of the world, even though somebody that I'm going to trade with at this trade deadline is going to want, a decent prospect plus. I'm willing to make that deal if my team is in contention, because I think even if his playing time reduces, his stat line probably won't, because Tampa Bay is going to do that thing where they're going to bring him in, in the 6th inning to play defense. And then he's going to get 2 at bats. So even if he goes from getting, say, 20 at bats a week to 17, he's going to be effective enough that I think at the end of the season, Joey Wendell's just going to be quietly put together a good year. Last year, he had 8 stolen bases in the shortened season. I could see the stolen base total going up as the season narrows. And the games become more important. The players start to do those little bit of extra things that get the team the win. So I'm a big Joey Wendell guy. How are you on Wendell?
I like his multi-position eligibility. I think that is sort of an overlooked strategy to winning. It's just getting through the season.
Absolutely.
So difficult. So like having that multi-position eligibility is a big thing. But Joey Wendell, if he was just second base or just a single one of these, I probably wouldn't be too excited.
I completely agree with you there. His biggest asset is the fact that you can move him around your offense to fit the spot. Right now in my home league, he is my shortstop. And he started the year. He was my third baseman. I think Riley was outfield, and then Riley went to third. Wendell went to short because whatever happened. And then when Madrigal got hurt, I was like, now I've got another option to move him to second base. And that's where that value, because you don't lose a step, right? Like you're not all of a sudden hitting the waiver wire or trying to bend over in it or take one bending over in a trade from somebody. He allows you to be competitive. And I think he's going to be able to do it next year too.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 31, so he should still be decent next year. Honestly, I'd rather have Chris Taylor if I'm looking for multi-position.
Yeah, okay, that's a good call. Yep.
I don't know what his ownership's like right now, but especially if you're in a league like the Listener League where you only have 4 bench players, having a guy like Joey Wendell on your bench that you can put in 4 spots, that saves your butt quite a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I've struggled with is being able, because we only do Fab once a week at 9 p.m. on Sunday nights, I have struggled when I have not won my bid to have a full lineup because I have injuries. And like you said about the bench, I've decided to go with my pitchers early in the season so that I could then play matchups later in the year with pitching and then just start my guy. Like, you can pick your strategy. I decided let's just go for pitching. And then as the year winds on, I'll start to dial it back and stream more. And then I'll cut that back and have a better bench. But as the year goes on, a 4-man bench is still very limited. And then those injuries take over. Yeah. So it has been difficult.
I use it in a different Roto League, but my pitching is absolutely dominant. So I'm able to do that. I actually, in the Listener League, just sold out my offensive bench and all of my 4 benches, just starters, because that's just what I need at this point is I have the most opportunity on pitching. So that's the way that went, but diverging a little bit.
To your point about Taylor, Chris Taylor is 90% owned versus Joey Wendell's 66. So if it's redraft, it's going to be harder. But if it's dynasty and you're looking to trade, I think Taylor's value would be lower than Wendell's right now, because people would probably think this is it for Taylor, and others might think, well, Wendell still has a little bit more gas in the tank.
Yeah, and Taylor's covered. Like, if anyone gets hurt anywhere, Taylor's filling in the outfield pretty much anywhere on the infield. So the likelihood just from an injury alone is good. And then if everyone's healthy, like, they're going to give him time somewhere. Someone's going to get a day off. So he's still going to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 2 outfielders to discuss. And to me, they are polar opposites in every way. We've got Robbie Grossman. So we'll just say this is just like a little little debate we can have between the players as far as who we like and things. Robbie Grossman with Detroit and Jake Fraley with Seattle. Jake Fraley, rookie eligible in all your leagues, or rookie eligibility, whatever he should have. So 290 at bats for Grossman, 40 runs, 36 RBIs, 10 stolen bases, 10 dingers. He's got 85 strikeouts, which is high, and 51 walks, which is really good. 51 walks is solid for the midpoint of your year. Like over 100 walks, you're in like Josh Donaldson territory, which is patience. But the fact he's got 85 Ks and only 10 dingers to show for it, there's something going on that's a little wonky here, and it's 726 OPS. So next side, Jake Fraley, who is like a reinvented player. Think Dylan Moore, think Austin Nola, guys that Seattle has been able to, turn into something different than they were originally thought to be. 92 at bats for him, 261 average, 17 runs, 22 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, 7 home runs, 30 walks and 30 strikeouts, 29 walks, and a 950 OPS. So 3 times the at bats for Robbie Grossman, but roughly only double the run and RBI totals. And then stolen bases and home runs are within 3 in each category. I think Jake Fraley is being forgotten right now in redraft, and I would love to acquire him every dynasty league I can, because I think everybody must think Jake Fraley is lightning in a bottle. His job's going to be taken by Julio Rodriguez, by I love that I can't remember names of my teams
or whatever his name is.
Kelnick is going to take it. Rookie of the year, who's currently injured, Kyle Lewis is going to take it. They've got 5 legit prospecty outfielders that are going to take the job of Jake Fraley, because Jake Fraley shouldn't even have the at bats he's got. But you know what? He's got them, and he's earning more. And in 92 at bats, if he can continue. Not at all at this clip. He does not need to be this guy. Not a 1-for-1 strikeout to walk guy. Not equal dingers to stolen bases. But if Jake Fraley can even just double his stat line over the next 150 at bats, so that he would be somewhere around 30-ish runs, 35-ish RBIs, 10 to 12 stolen base and home runs each. He is a very, very efficient player. And if that OPS drops 100 points to 850, if you're in a 5 outfielder league, he's got to be owned. To me, Jake Fraley is a go and acquire today, because the price is only going to go up type guy.
I don't have much to say. You nailed one on the head. The only thing I'll add is Robbie Grossman has been absolute trash the last 21, 14, and 7 days.
Just falling off a cliff.
Fraley has been quite good. So I think we're starting to trend the opposite way for these players. Grossman got off to a hot start. Fraley's doing better lately. I absolutely went on board with you trying to acquire Fraley in probably some of the same leagues as you, just for an extra outfielder going forward. Cheap.
You don't have to think of Fraley as if you're in a 3 outfielder league. If it's not left, right, and center field, if it's just outfield and you only have 3,
it's so much easier.
Just think of, like Ronnie said, think of him as your 4th outfielder. So don't pay some ridiculous premium. Think of Victor Reyes with Detroit, who is having had a really good 2020 and had a lot of promise heading into 2021. Struggled, demoted. Robbie Grossman blocked him. Like, that's the problem with him. But now Daz Cameron's up. Now there are other guys in Detroit, like they're flipping the page here. So to me, it's Fraley. He's a good asset at your trade deadline. He will cost a bit, but he's not going to be too crazy, because whoever owns him did not pay a premium to get him. He would have been waiver wired. He would have been possibly a late round draft pick. And any form of which he was picked up by the previous guy outside of a trade.
2016 is his rookie year. Not rookie year. In his draft year, the year after his draft year. I'm not sure when he was actually drafted. Yeah, 2016 by Tampa. So that your league is going to have to be around for 6 years, and someone have to hang on to him for that long. It's going to be, they got him off the waiver wire.
Yeah, and depending on how your league does, if you're able to draft whatever they're called, just prospects, not the first year player draft guys. If you just pick up anybody in a rookie draft, I guess is what you would call it.
That's true. I guess that's the only
other way that he may have been picked up.
Yeah.
But regardless, I still think it's fair to pay a decent price for somebody like that who I don't think is Tim Lopes, Tim Lopes is a guy with Seattle. Well, now with Milwaukee, that I was thinking, oh, he's going to get some play time this year because certain things are just going to happen in Seattle. Well, then he gets shipped off to Milwaukee. I'm like, hey, this is going to work. But then Milwaukee also got Billy McKinney. Then Milwaukee got Derek Fisher, and then Lopes got hurt. And I'm like, okay, well, that's just what happens. But if you go around and collect these kind of peripheral guys on teams that have prospect outfielders that should come up at some point in time, you still have that moment in time before that turnover is to take on, where a guy like Fraley can come in and carve out time. And maybe he is a trade chip. And maybe because he's got a lot of control, Seattle would be happy to trade him to some team that's got whatever that desirable asset is, if they deem it worthy for themselves.
That's what I was thinking. He seems like a good trade chip for Seattle to bring back something else. Wherever he's going, it's probably going to play him somewhere, or else why would they be trading for him?
And it could also help with them if they wanted to move salary, like in a trade scenario. If Seattle said, whomever the player is, that they want to move with salary because they want to create playing time for someone else. They've got, not that Shed Long's expensive, they've got Shed Long, who doesn't look like he's got second base because Dylan Moore is a damn good defensive second baseman, struggling at the dish.
Yeah, he's
but
got left field now too.
Pardon me.
Right. He's what's his name?
Long. More?
Yeah, Long's got outfield eligibility or left field in a couple of my leagues now.
Yeah, he started because they don't want to put him at second base because Dylan Moore makes their infield so good with Crawford, Seager, and whenever White comes back. So, all right, let's move on to pitchers here. We got 2, 4, 6 pitchers to talk about. This is less fab, but there are some fab options in here, but this is far more dynasty discussion. So, what are your dynasty thoughts on a guy like Kyle Gibson in Texas, who is like a peripheral veteran 4 ERA guy who this year sliced it in half, 95 and 2/3 innings. He's at a 1.98 ERA, 6-0 on a bad Texas team, 81 Ks in the 95 innings, but 12 quality starts. How do you feel on your, let's say you've got a team that's 500.
Yep.
Are you looking to acquire Kyle Gibson on a 500 team, or do you need to be?
I need to be going for a championship.
Okay.
I need to be in position. Most of these leagues we're talking about are going to be like head to head. So I need to be already leading my division or solidly in a wild card. I need to be 70% sure I'm going to be making the playoffs. And then I would trade for Kyle Gibson to solidify my rotation going into the playoffs. That's kind of my view on him. And I wouldn't sell out to get him, but I would give up realistically, they're probably going to ask between a top 80 and 150 type prospect fantasy, and you got to win at some point. So if you have a shot at winning, I would pay a moderate price for Kyle Gibson.
That is fair. I'm just posting that up. Only in Win Now should you get Gibson, and that's when you actually make that move. Garrett Whitlock, Rule 5 guy, from the Yankees as a starter to Boston in the bullpen, 9% owned. So this is absolutely a fab guy, out of the bullpen, not out of the rotation, but in 40 innings this year, which is very good. Likely that he will no longer be a rookie at the end of the season. 40 innings pitched, 1.29 ERA, 3-1 record. Again, bullpen, and 9 combined save holds for him. 43 Ks in 40 innings. A guy like Whitlock, earlier in the year, you traded to me as part of just a deal. It was a deal. Whitlock's just worked out really well, but that wasn't necessarily it wasn't the intent of the trade, but it's worked out well. What do you feel about a guy like Whitlock? Was that someone that you now wish you would have held, or somebody that you would look to acquire elsewhere?
I want him back. I want him back. Can you turn him back to me, please? I like that.
We can talk.
That's just so he would have been on a first, so second, third, he would have been a cheap reliever for me. And I don't have any stats in front of me to back this up. This is just my gut feel. But I
like this.
The relievers, because of this 3-inning pitch rule or 3 batter pitch rule, so many more relievers, especially in a points league, because that was a points league, I believe, are becoming more valuable. Like, they don't have to get the save or hold. If they go an inning and a half and strike out 3 guys, it's kind of working out for me. Like, if I look at some guys that I have that are like late inning relievers, like a 7th guy or 6th guy or a multi-inning guy, and I look at the 8th inning setup guy somewhere, And I just look at it from a points perspective, they're close. And I'm like, you can get these guys who aren't getting the saves or the holds for significantly cheaper. But at the end of the day, all you care about is the point total if you're in a points league. And it's not astronomically different. And they don't cost you that much. So that's sort of where I'm at on Garrett Whitlock.
So to your point with him, was it Seawald or Segwald, whatever it is with Seattle? He's becoming a K machine. It
only works in points leagues though. Like if
does, that's where they're the most effective. Yes, because you're getting your potential. You can walk into a win, or you can walk into, depending on the format, a hold or a save. But you're getting points on the Ks, and they're not giving up the run, so they're not hurting you. And even if they do, even if they have like a night that's -8, they've earned by this point in the year, they've accrued enough for you that you just continue to plug and play. Like
there's a guy on Tampa Bay, starts with a K, Kittleridge or something. He's
Kitteridge or whatever. Yeah, he's an opener.
Most of the time he's in the middle.
Yeah.
That guy I own in a few places in points leagues. And if I look at his points versus a guy who is like a 20th ranked type closer, they're not that far apart.
Right. But the cost to acquire them is through the roof. And that's one of the things that I did last year in a 30-team points league was I decided I went away from the let me have all of the legit closers, because even if I had 4, 2 of them probably lost their job or got hurt by the end of April. And then I'm left with, oh my goodness, what can I do now? Because I put a lot of value in them. To where can I get that value off the wire, or how can I get it in the least expensive way? So sometimes you look for the Rule 5 guys, which is exactly what I did with Whitlock. I looked at him. Okay, he's with Boston. Is he going to pitch? He starts pitching in April. Okay, let's try to make a deal. So I was able to make a deal with you in a 30-team league. But in addition to that, I've also looked for the rest of the guys who were, once AAA started, who were getting those 7th, 8th, and 9th inning at AAA and then got called up. Okay, what can I expect from these guys? And Segwald, or whatever his name is with Seattle, is one of those guys. Miami's got a guy, Bednar, I think it is. He's killing it too. There are those guys who can just get it done. So another guy, but on a different value scale, we've got Michael Kopech. Michael Kopech is oobs talented, coming off the IL right now, 52% owned in Yahoo in 32 1/3 innings. Kopech has a 1.67 ERA, 3-0 with 2 save holds for the year, 45 Ks in those 32 1/3 innings. But we know this is not Kopech relief pitcher rest of career. That's worst case scenario. Kopech is a starter. What are your thoughts on him in Dynasty, and what do you think about his Dynasty value?
Can we get a post-hype train guy here? I think
attorney boss.
I think this guy's all aboard the post-hype train. If you remember from like basically when this guy was 15 to like 18, everyone and their mother was trying to acquire Michael Kopech in fantasy to be the next like stud starter. He gets hurt. He gets a cup of coffee in 2018. I think he throws 14 innings.
I think it was 2 or 3 into the 3rd start. He got hurt.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh my God, what just happened?
Didn't pitch in 19. 20 was a weird season, didn't pitch anywhere. And now he's back, and his stats are closer in line with what you would think that they would have been. I mean, he hasn't been starting the whole time, I don't think. No, he has not. But like going
this year, he's only had one. I think it was only one kind of opener start.
Yeah. I think this is the guy you could acquire on the post hype. You might be able to get him relatively inexpensive, and it could be monumental. It could be like Giolito type move, where Giolito was just trash for a while when he went to the White Sox or Washington. They went to the White Sox, and he's like, boom, everyone wants Giolito. This could be the next Giolito. I should probably go actually acquire him later somewhere.
Well, to your point, I think now is the time to get Kopech, because owners are starting to think, okay, well, like he was hurt again. He's back, but he is still in the bullpen, and my team is doing whatever my team's doing. I own him in 2 dynasties. One's a keep forever, and the other one is a salary based. And in the salary based one, he's still as a rookie. So I'm okay with just letting him go. Oh, second crack at the Basil Hayden here for Ronnie. And to me, Kopech is an acquire guy. He's a trade deadline guy that you should be able to, if you're not competing this year or you're 500 this year, He's the right guy to give up one of your overachieving players to get. And yes, you may need to give up one of those draft picks. And again, if you're not sure what the deal is, if you go draft heavy, if you're in a league where every time you trade a draft pick, you have to get one back. I think I really like that for Dynasty because it prevents you from being screwed over if you're competing and then you don't have draft picks the next year. You can at least have a 10th round draft pick or whatever it is.
Guys, over that. I've gotten over late, like 7th round.
I got Mercedes I had someone draft Mercedes for me in a league last year. I said, you go get this guy and I'll trade you this like piece that I don't want, but I'll pay his salary and blah, blah, blah. And I got Mercedes. I got the bonus of Mercedes for a little bit of the year. Excuse me. But that's what I think you can do with Kopech. And I think it's worth giving up a pick and a player to get someone like him, knowing the long-term ramification, knowing the long-term bonus you can get out of it. All right. Next one up, Spencer Turnbull. Is there a turnaround coming post IL? Now, why does he need a turnaround? Well, he's got a 2.88 ERA in 50 innings. That you don't need to fix that. 4-2 record on a crappy Tigers team. 44 Ks in 50 innings, not great. 4 quality starts for the year, perfectly fine. But what does Turnbull need to do when he comes back? Well, he needs to just like continue. So it's not necessarily the turnaround. It's can he just maintain this level of excellence? Because this is overachieving. I don't think anybody would say, no, this is Spencer Turnbull. This is what I expected. This is the guy delivering. It's too bad he got hurt because if he had doubled those innings, he'd be an 8 to 10 win guy headed into the All-Star break now. How do you feel about Spencer Turnbull?
Yeah, he's definitely not this good, I don't think. I think he's somewhere in between his 19 and 20, which puts him at a 4.25, let's call it ERA type pitcher. And like, I'll be generous, a 1-3 whip kind of guy with 160 Ks. I think he is some guy that is worth being on your roster. I would look for him as if I have a really good team and there's like 5 or 6 starters that I'm cycling through, I'd want him on my bench as the 7th guy to manage injuries once he's healthy. I don't think he's gonna like be a stud or anything, but I think he's definitely someone, especially in like a 30-team league. It's the kind of guy that I would like for just building me depth with upside. That's what I like, upside. Depth.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what the cost would be from owners. So if anyone's out there, hit us up at Dingers Pod. If you're in the chat, if you're watching now, which probably not because it's starting to get just a little bit dark out. So maybe you're getting ready for your American fireworks.
Fingers tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully you keep all your digits or you're just watching somebody else do the risky business because that's okay too. But let us know at Dingers Pod or hit me up at Robbie Baseball 1 if you've had Turnbull traded in your league, if you've either been the one to acquire or trade him. We're curious what the value is going on because it's one thing for somebody on a podcast to say what they would do when we haven't been in the situation. It's another thing. What I do a lot is I'll just go and ask owners, hey, what are your thoughts on this guy? What are your thoughts on that guy in different leagues to get an idea before I come on the show to talk about it. Well, today I didn't do that with Turnbull, so I can't give you an idea of what somebody would want for him. But the stock answer is always prospects and picks, right? Yeah. It's like I joke that it's the Chris response, and Chris is a guy that we played some dynasty leagues with.
Yeah, I tried to sneak him into a trade recently in True Test when I traded. Who did I trade? I think I traded. His name slips me. He's pitching for the White Sox right now. Oh God. Anyway, I tried to sneak him in, and the guy would not do it. And he was on the Turnbull was on the IL then as well. So Dallas
maybe
Keuchel,
a Detroit fan.
Keuchel
was the guy. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to think of who. So the league that Ronnie's referring to is the Real Money League, where currently right now to roster Ronald Acuna it is $80, $80 and there is a tiered tax system. So I think we have 3 teams right now that are north of $700 on their payroll, maybe more. But the last time I checked, I think the team that continues to add payroll in my division, I am the Blue Jays in that 30-team league, and the Red Sox, who I think are 8 games ahead of me right now, continue to add payroll. And I just keep thinking,
pushing all my players to him. I just keep winning. He keeps giving me Martinez, Blue Jays prospect, for a bunch of crap last week.
Right, because he just wants some. We have a 40-man roster in that league. So one of the fun things when you have a 40-man roster is you can acquire veteran talent and just let it sit on your bench. But in this league, you also have to pay real money for it. So if a guy's $9, then the guy's $9. And if your roster is over $119, that $9 contract got doubled. It's now an $18 player. And if you go $100 over $119, so if your total roster is $220, that $9 player is now costing you $27 because you get into a triple tax. So it's really a dynamic league. It's very fun. We've talked about it on here before a few times, but because of its complexity, it's hard to kind of let people know exactly what's going on with it. But it's an amazing league. And the fact that you can go and possibly have 26 MLBers without having like rookies on first and guys on second and guys on thirds, it really means you can try to stack your team. But what it does is it costs you a ton of money. And if you're a guy like the Red Sox, I'm the team behind them, most likely to catch him if someone's catching him. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just going to wait until the trade deadline and see what I can aggressively go and get. Whereas right now he's doing what Ronnie just said, which is he's just going and getting bulk players. Well, people might not want any of those guys back in trade when he's trying to acquire again at the deadline. So unless he's content to do all of his work now, he is possibly going to suffer the fate of losing in the month of August, which I can't imagine anything worse. So moving on to the next one here is Caprillion with Oakland. He is awesome. 10 Ks today. I think he took the loss as well. Unfortunately, I don't know if I think he allowed one run. I think that was it. But should you buy in? Caprillion is with Oakland. He is I think at best he was like a peripheral just outside top 100 list for prospects and got hurt. And I think it was shoulder issues. I own him in 2 dynasty leagues. I've had him for several years in both of those leagues. And in another league, I traded him this year. It was like my worst trade of the year. Robbie Ray, Caprillion. I got Luis Severino and something else back. And I'm like, my gosh, like, why did all I had to do was wait. It was a points league. So Caprillion, 55% owned. So he could be a potential ad for you in your redraft leagues, but just under 3 ERA in 57 innings after play today, 4-3 record, taking the loss today, 62 Ks in 57 innings and 5 quality starts. He is a rookie coming on strong. Got a little taste last year. I think it was 4 innings or something like that is all he got last year. So this is his first full season. Finally back and healthy, and Oakland is letting him rip. We know Oakland's got Puck. We know they've got Luzardo. They've got Montas, who could lead the rotation, Manaea, who could lead the rotation. You name it, Oakland's got it. But Caprillion is going in right now and getting it done. So in Dynasty down the stretch, I'm interested, but I can't imagine he could be acquired without like top billing coming back. Whatever you've got that is the best thing not helping you win right now will have to be off your roster. I don't know if it's worth it to me, Ronnie. If you're in that position, is it worth it to you? Or if you're the team that's going the other way and somebody that's competing has him, would you say, well, that's the guy I want back?
I own him in a league that I am with you in, that I am dominating. Maybe we can swing a trade because I actually have no need for him because I am so far ahead in innings pitched that
do you have him as a rookie or do you have him as like
a rookie? So I can bring him up, I can bring him down.
Then
so
let's talk really after this. Let's hurry up and get through this and then let's have a quick chat.
Yeah, he's on a first. But in my circumstance, he's like a super depth luxury for me because I also have your Quiddy, who's in from I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. The same situation. I can ride him up
or whatever. Yeah, and he's now hurt, so caution on him.
Yes, but I diverged a bit here. I don't mind him. I think I would like to own him in other leagues if I can get my hands on him. I personally wouldn't pay that much, but if someone else is more desperate for him, like Rob, I might have to, hold his feet to the fire a little bit. But I owned him in that league since he was a New York Yankee, and I remember when he was a Yankee, he had some prospect hype, and then he got hurt and he was out for a while. So I don't think it's illegitimate, and it's Oakland, and Oakland makes magic happen to a lot of things. And the park
can stretch him out. Yeah, that's exactly right. They can allow you to get more out of him as a fantasy starting pitcher than probably any other park because pop flies, they can be caught. Also, it's a huge park. and the team's good. The defense is good, so they can get it done. So okay, well we'll chat about him when we're done. But let's do our last guy here. Last guy tonight, Jose Suarez, Los Angeles Angels, now a starting pitcher. Oh my goodness, people, I hope you bought him. Jose Suarez is just like Patrick Sandoval. He's one of my dudes. In 27 and the third innings, a 1.98 ERA, 3-1 record. And I mean, again, he hasn't had the opportunity to get the starts to accrue quality starts yet. He had one start this week. I think it was Monday, may have been Tuesday. And then later in the week, Joe Madden said, you know what? Suarez is in the starting rotation rest of the season. And celebrated good times. Come on. Because in those bigger leagues, to me, these are the guys that win you the leagues. He's not rookie eligible, so you have to get him as a free agent. So in a 30-team points league with salaries, I got him at league minimum, 6 weeks ago maybe, threw him in my bench. I'm like, let's just see what's going to happen. Another name as well with Oakland, who could be one of those other guys, but a veteran, is Homer Bailey. He signed with Oakland, a minor league deal last week. Excuse me. So where he was available, or where I had a spot available, I picked him up just thinking, well, Homer Bailey will pitch. Like, he'll either pitch or he'll be released in August. So I can take that chance for the next, up to my league trade deadline maybe. And if I have to cut a guy or do something like that, that would be my guy. But Jose Suarez had a terrible 2020. The line was ugly. I think his ERA was like 6 something. Yeah, like nothing looked good on it. But the thing is that he's 23 right now. He's a lefty. He fires that thing in there. And I believe he's got a good 3-pitch mix. I didn't pull it up in front of me because I'm talking to you people. But Suarez to me is just one of those guys that can slot in and help out. And the Angels are not good enough to delay potential. Like Reed Detmers is rumored to possibly be able to make this roster by the end of the year. I don't like that idea, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen because yes, Ohtani had a terrible start in New York, but look at what else Ohtani's been doing, right? He's still the best player in baseball, best fantasy player. If you're in a deal, oh, come on. Ohtani is better than Vlad. Brett Phillips, who had an amazing interview. I don't know if you saw the interview that he did after he pitched. He threw a 47 mile per hour pitch and a 94 mile per hour pitch in the same outing. Like, amazing. And then his interview afterwards, he was talking about how, he hopes that he can get into arbitration with Tampa Bay so that he can bring up Ohtani as a comparable player to him because they are both two-way players. It was just hilarious. He's like, I haven't pitched since I think he said 16 or something, but he was great and like great guy. But anyway, with Suarez, it's a 6-man rotation, so you're not going to get the 2-start week unless something happens with a doubleheader. So best case scenario, I would say, is you could get him twice for 2-start weeks, but you cannot at all count on it. Now, typically with starting pitchers, you should get 4 minimum 2-start weeks out of them. And the earlier they, like, depending on how your league does all-star breaks and stuff, sometimes it can reset it. So your aces, like Giolito, I think has been slated for 4 already this year, but because of rainouts, I think he's had 3. But still, 3 2-start weeks from a guy who should be able to win you weeks is crazy. If we're in week 12, week 13 right now, something like that. So anyway, for me, Jose Suarez is 100% guy to acquire. Problem is, even though he's only 3% owned in Yahoo, everybody should now own him that is intelligent, because they would have said, oh, Madden started him. He pitched well. Madden just said he's in the rotation now. The only way he wouldn't be started is if they're thinking to themselves, well, my rotation's so good, or my bench is so small, or IL's full, whatever, that I can't put him on there for 1 start a week. But I would like to remind everybody about Chris Flexen in Seattle and how they can still provide you good value, even with just 1 start a week. And Chris Flexen, great start today. Patrick Sandoval, great start today. At Robbie Baseball 1, I'm throwing out SP streaming options, and 4-1 today before the Caleb Smith start tonight, which I believe I said Caleb Smith would not. No, I said Caleb Smith would be me and Keller would be okay. I got to check. I don't know if I'm 5-0 or 4-1. I said I was 4-1, but now I'm thinking I said that Keller would be meh, and he was amazing today. Brad Keller, this is from Kansas City, Ty's boy. Ty talked about him, I think, 2 weeks ago. So, but anyway, Ronnie, that's as much time as I can possibly delay to give to you. Jose Suarez, how badly do you want him?
Well, I hope no one from the listening league's listening, because he's out there, and I might just screwed myself. But I'm just making an ad here because I need me some pitching.
Well, why don't we both? What don't we both do in that? Let's both just see.
Let's see who wants to
Suarez more
on him here. Check things. Yeah, I think you're right. The 6-man rotation kind of makes me a little bit nervous before 5, but he seems to have a job secured the rest of the way, and I think it could be a move that just alters your roster enough to push it to the finish line. And it sounds like we're both going to be competing for the same player in the same league here. So we'll see who wants to pay the most money.
Yeah, I have to figure out who I want to cut, because the one thing that I have in that listener league
I tell you what, I'm cutting Andrew Henne, so he gone.
Yeah, I was just saying I have excessive options. It's just a matter of the quality of said options, who I like, who I don't like. I have been scared of Garrett Cole to the point that I did not start him in that league today.
If you cut Garrett Cole,
no, I wouldn't cut Garrett Cole. I wouldn't cut Garrett Cole.
I will
that's a different
over you for the end of time.
No. I just said I didn't start him because of all of the things going on in his world right now. I want him to settle down, and then Garrett Cole will just go back to that guy. But that's the only league that I think I have him rostered in 4 league. I've got a bunch of Garrett Cole, but I was willing to sit him in that league, thinking that I wanted to be a little bit more conservative, and I did put in Peralta today. So anyway, I've got my bid in on Suarez. We hope Ronnie's got his bid in on Suarez. We'll see you at 9:00 p.m. who gets that. We hope this has been helpful to you, that you have got your Gibson, Whitlock, Kopech, Turnbull, Love information, your Carson Kelly, Omar Narvaez, Andrew Vaughn, Lux, all of them. We hope everybody has helped you, as well as us. We thank you. This has been Ronnie and Robbie on Dingers.